Hey everyone, welcome back to the Heat Press for Profit podcast, where ideas ignite, brands elevate, and the future of custom apparel is brought to reality. Today we are on episode 94. And as you can see, wherever you are joining us from, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, today we are talking about burning questions unleashed, the future of print on demand. So we're just coming off hot of the POD conference, and Rusty is here to join me to talk a little bit about that. If you happen to be catching this later on your favorite podcast platform, awesome. Just make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. We are dropping fresh content every single week. So every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, you'll be able to join in, hop on, join us live, listen as we are discussing different topics in the industry, right? So if you're serious about taking your heat printing hustle to the next level, head over to Facebook and join us on the Heat Press for Profit community. You'll be able to connect with a lot of industry pros like Rusty that we have with us today. Also swap some ideas and get inspired by fellow decorators making big moves in the industry. All right, Rusty Pepper from Tailor On Demand. So Rusty, you're the head of global markets and partnerships at Tailor On Demand. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and expertise when it comes to print on demand?
I'll do my best. It's a, it's an evolving market. So I'm not really sure there's too many experts out there, but I think we're all trying to learn as quickly as we can. But, my job, my role at Tailor is I'm really kind of the evangelist out there for not only our business, but I try to be for the entire industry, because I do feel like it's our obligation as business industry leaders to go out there and evangelize. This is the benefits, the value, the way it should be built. And, probably 60% of my time is out there doing that. But at Tailor On Demand, we are a back-end print fulfiller. So we don't work with the end customers. We work with all the distributors, software platforms, marketplaces to, provide, product and print on demand products for them to be able to really supercharge their business. So we're one of the big ones out there. We're $2.5 billion, 10,000 plus employees in 94 locations around the US, Mexico, Canada, and UK. So it's a big operation. And we're very lucky to have it because it makes a good foundation to be able to support a fantastic industry.
Awesome. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's really awesome to have you on with us, especially as we're coming off of the POD conference. Guys, listeners, Rusty is being a little modest. He is recognized as a thought leader in the print on demand space, and he played a huge role at the POD conference that we hosted last week in Phoenix.
What a fantastic event.
Fantastic event. Yeah, there were a lot of great people just all coming together. Like, I've just never seen that many folks at that caliber in the same room. So it was really awesome. We heard a lot from Rusty and a lot of other thought leaders in the industry. And a lot of people share a lot of knowledge and insight during that event on where we kind of see things growing in the print on demand space. Like you mentioned, Rusty, it's ever growing, right? And so, yeah,
it is.
We don't have a crystal ball by any means, but as we're talking about how things are transpiring, right? How do we stay on top of it? And I think that the audience there really came up with a lot of good questions. So for those of you that didn't get to attend on day 3, after we sat through a variety of panels and seminars with leaders in the print on demand space, we opened it up to the rest of the audience, right? What are some of your questions coming out of these panels? What are thoughts that no one's really discussing, right? And so there are some really great burning questions. That was what this session was called, burning questions, that came out of the print on demand conference. And that's what I want to cover today. If you guys checked out the YouTube video that released on our New Now Next series, which is brand new, this is only our 3rd video that we released, but it was basically a wrap up video just kind of featuring different points of the print on demand conference. And at the end of that video, we said a lot of great burning questions, but you have to stay tuned to hear a little bit more about this. Well, this is that. That's why you guys are here. And Rusty is here to kind of touch on some of these things because you have a really great perspective and a really great like foot in the industry, right? And so I think that you'll be able to kind of expand on a lot of these and really help our listeners today understand why we're asking these questions, the importance of these questions, and how it affects everyone, right? So question one was, will consolidation help or hurt the industry?
I feel like since it's burning questions, we should be doing like hot ones. I should have like something like a spicy chip or, something. We need to be doing something that's like really burning. But from a question standpoint, we'll have to run with that way. But I look at it and say, okay, I'm a fan, honestly, of consolidation at this moment in time. It may, go against the grain with some certain folks, but I think right now, after COVID, when I think about our industry, so much growth happened that there was an influx of businesses and companies coming in to try to support it. I think we're really wide right now when you look across the ecosystem, there's so many different providers. Mild consolidation would do us very good. So I am a fan of consolidation.
Yeah. So I sat at a table. And so just to give a little bit more perspective on how this kind of transpired at the event, as the burning questions popped up on the screen, we all sat at a table and we had 3 flags, a green flag, a red flag, and a yellow flag, right? So were you at a green flag table?
Full green.
Full green, right? So if everyone at the table agreed with the answer of the question, right? So if they were at Rusty's table, they would agree that consolidation is great for the industry. They would hold up a green flag. If they disagreed and couldn't come to an overall decision, it was yellow. And then red was absolutely not, like, it's just not working out over here. Yeah, clashing totally.
Hey, shout out to Josh for pulling that out last minute too, making that happen, because I don't think that was planned really. So
right. And what's crazy is we didn't know what questions we were going to get because it came from the audience. So I'm like, I was anticipating this day the entire time. So I was actually at a yellow table, right? So we really just couldn't come to an agreement. Some were pro, some were con. And I think that there are great pros and cons to this question, but honestly, why does it matter, right? Why does the question matter? So first thing is for business, it's whether or not you'll be able to face less, competition or struggle to compete with bigger players. For customers, it impacts product choices, prices, quality, right? And then for the industry as a whole, it could influence service standard, right? So I think that this is a question that we could be looking at in a lot of ways. And the good side of that is, like you said, it's going to allow for efficiency and lower costs. Broadly, it'll allow, in my opinion, more resources for innovation, right? Because now we're able to invest in like maybe better equipment or new printing techniques, right? So we never know what can come of that when we have more time to spend in that space.
Well, when you have a bigger players that come together, I mean, obviously, I think we're all dancing around we all know the latest big, merger is Printify and Printful, right? Which created a lot of noise across the industry, which is, I think, a good thing because after that happened, my DMs, my phone, everything blew up like, oh my gosh, and people were excited. They were nervous. They didn't know. I look at it and I was like, cool, this is great. And obviously we're not heavily in apparel. So it definitely didn't affect us as much. It actually helps our business. But when I look at these bigger players, they break the water for the rest of the industry to fall back behind. So when you just nailed it with like innovation and investments that go into creating these different technologies and efficiencies that all of a sudden just leak down into the overall industry, that's a great benefit overall for it. Now, you also have to caution all that too, because you don't want too much consolidation either, right? It's too much is then detrimental, and nobody wants that either. I just think that
there's a lot of pros and cons.
My lens is I like to see it just right now in this particular moment in time. We could use a little bit of flushing, a little bit of cleaning, so that we can have a more stable uh, market.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And there was a big question at my table too was, is it risk of monopoly? And so maybe that's
Yeah,
where you mean like too much consolidation, right?
yeah,
And then at that point, it's like, well, they might dominate the market and set prices people can't compete with, you know what I mean? Or even higher prices. So I think that there is a good side and then there's always a caveat. It's always tough to have too much of one thing, right? So I think that there just needs to be a balance there.
yeah. I
But I'm
mean,
interested. Go ahead.
oh no, I was going to say. I mean, the tough thing too is, or again, this is pros and cons, right? Again, picking on the Printify merger, it created job losses because there was redundancy.
Mhm.
However, that created a massive opportunity for the industry to pick up some incredibly savvy, smart players that now are at other companies, that they're going to take the innovation and all the experiences they've learned at those other companies and apply them into the market. So it
Right.
leaks out. And that to me is powerful. Now, not everybody's going to get that an opportunity, but for those that do, it really helps a lot of these other businesses. And again, you just keep leaking out all these best practices and innovation, and it just works itself through the system. And I think that is something that again, that's why I liked it. I thought it was a
Yeah.
good thing. And fortunately at my table, and I want to say, I can't remember what the split was. You may have a better read on that from the conference, but I want to say half the tables were green.
I agree. Yes, I agree. I don't know exactly if someone took like a count, but the majority of the tables were green. I think there were only two reds and two
Yeah.
yellows at that
Okay.
stage. Yeah. But most people were totally on board with it. And I feel like it was very well put on your end. I think that it needs to be done right so that we can expand and see this evolve in a positive way, not so much of a monopolization way.
Yeah, and the leadership at these the consolidators, I was just going to call them a
Mhm.
consolidator at this point, is they can either be a good thing or a bad thing for for that, right? Because if
Right.
they're very protectionist and they don't they control it, then it's not. But if they're very open and collaborative and understand their position in the industry, they
Mhm.
want the industry to be healthy. They want to be motivated. And I believe knowing that and having a chance to spend a lot of time with that leadership there, they're the ones that are going to really add value to the overall. Now, some people are not going to like it. You can't control that. But
Right.
overall, I do believe that they're very much out there wanting to see the industry be healthy, drive innovation, and help break the water so that we can all benefit from it. So fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
And you see that time and time again. You're right. It really does depend on the consolidator, right? But the industry as a whole, I've never seen everyone just always helping other businesses and other companies just succeed and grow and help the industry thrive. You do not normally see that. And this is one that I've just seen time and time again. More people are collaborating and partnering on things. It's just if you're successful, I'm successful. It's kind of like the vibe that the industry has, and it's really great to be a part of. For those of you listening in, we obviously would love to hear your opinions on some of these questions. So give us your thoughts, comment in. We'll be checking those comments and answering any questions you guys might have, or any comments you might have to expand on what we are talking about. So Phil, get those comments coming in, guys. We want to hear from you too. All right, so we just finished up the first question, right? And that was, will consolidation help or hurt the industry? That was a really, really great question. I feel like it was the perfect kickoff question to really get people on a roll and like sharing thoughts. Because even though we're all in the print on demand space, we all have our own opinions about things. So it was great to really hear people go back and forth and get different perspectives.
Well,
Question,
we also all serve different parts of the market too. I mean, when you think
right,
about the
right.
overall ecosystem, you got promo, you got photo imaging. So like all the photo
Mhm.
products, you've got retail, you've got traditional print. I mean, they're all coming together in to make this ecosystem. So they
Yeah.
all have a different perspective because wherever you sit in it, you're going to look at, you could be a supplier, you could be a fulfiller, you could also be a tech company. So all those markets shade totally different, but when you collectively you look at it, we all have the same benefit of having a very healthy and stable industry, which is exciting, and that's why I love it.
Yeah. And I think that gears us up perfectly for the next one, right? So the next question was geared more towards screen printing and its relevancy in print on demand, right? So part one, it was a two-part question. Part one is what needs to be done for processes like screen printing to thrive alongside print on demand. And part two, is this a problem that needs solved, or should screen printing be left out in favor of print on demand technology?
Okay.
All
So
right.
tackle one. Oh, it
Let's go
absolutely.
one. Yeah. Let's go. Okay, let's bring it together, right? This is asking how traditional screen printing can continue to be successful and relevant in print on demand, right? Because speed for customization is rapidly growing, right? And we know what screen print is built for, but in my opinion, I don't think it's about one or the other. I think it's about finding a way for both methods to coexist and thrive in the print on demand space.
100%. It's a hybrid approach.
Mm-hmm.
One is not more important than the other. Again, every client, every market is going to have a unique need. You can't, and I look at this across the whole industry, is as big as we are.
Mm-hmm.
If all the products we serve, if everybody came to me, I would implode. I couldn't handle it all. Nobody
Right.
can handle it all. And so we have to understand that DTG is not going to solve every need.
Right.
DTF's not going to solve everything. Screen print's not going to solve everything. Embroidery's not going to, I mean, so you have to have a very hybrid approach, a very agile and adaptable approach. And that's what I got a big sense from the industry is people really are realizing that so that they can really make the best case. But if I know that a lot of my clients are really that short run, is the screen play a big play? Does it? I don't know. Maybe I partner with somebody with that, but I don't see one being more important than the other. But if you're traditionally looking at print on demand, where it goes down to quantities of one, screen's not going to solve that.
Right. But like you said, it's all about understanding the range of customization options you have
Okay.
and when to use them for what orders, right? If you're printing an order that comes in that's 1,000 pieces,
Yeah.
that's still print on demand. It doesn't have to just be an order of one, right?
Correct.
So
It's more of
screen
on demand.
yeah. And so screen printing is going to fill that bucket, right? And so whenever people ask if they should be using more POD technology, right, as opposed to screen printing, I'm like, that's like asking if I want fries with that. Let's be real. We want the
Hell yeah, I want
combo.
fries with it. Give me
Yeah,
some
we want the
fries.
combo. Combine the strengths of screen printing and the technologies of print on demand. And so that your customers have the best of both worlds. The hybrid approach, I think, is just top tier for having this. And I also like what you said, maybe partnering with people, right? I was actually sitting with Curtis from Corniche, right? And he said, you don't need to buy the shiny new toy, you just need to access it, right? And that's brilliant. Find that person you are comfortable with partnering with, build out collaboration, build out community, because you never know, even from doing that, what other opportunities lie ahead, right? So you don't always need to buy the shiny new toy. I know a lot of people were like tossing around the idea of an Apollo being perfect for this space, right? And he's like, yeah, that's great. And we would love to sell you one, but you don't need to buy that. Just have access to it and use it when you need it.
Yeah, and that's where these platforms really become in place. I mean, if you're tied into it, you don't need to do everything yourself. You can literally leverage the benefit of the whole, and as partners, we make it better. And that I think that was one of the themes too. I think that really stood out to me the most from the conference was the spirit of that people willing to do the partnership, which I think you mentioned earlier, even in this conversation, is that's what it's about, and that's where we are right now, this unique time, we have the opportunity to really leverage that. And I love the fact that folks are looking at it that way because they don't need to do a wholesale change.
Right. Right. It doesn't have to be a complete change. And speaking of change, AI, right? So AI was another burning topic during
Right.
this session. And so I think it's a really good conversation to have. I think there needs to be awareness built around it. I do feel like we're at beginning stages where we're seeing how it can be extremely helpful. But I don't think at this stage where it's at is it's going to take over what people are saying it's going to take over, right? So, question three, guys, how do you see AI disrupting the industry in all phases of print on demand? For example, store buildings, image design, production, and fulfillment.
What did your table How did your table land on this one? Do you remember?
It was a yellow again.
A yellow
Because
again. Okay.
we had folks from Cornette, then we had some like industry media folks, then we
Okay.
had actual printers. It was Dan and Blake from Top Shelf
Okay.
Printers. So
Yeah.
it was coming from every different angle of people that you could possibly have at a table, but it was
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay.
So in all, right, the question's asking it like how AI could change or improve every step of print on demand, whether that's from creating online stores, designing products, printing and delivering, etc. I feel like it has the potential to make things faster and more personalized, and be able to stay a little bit more competitive and efficient, especially when it comes to online stores.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of very similar to the previous question. It's a hybrid approach, in my opinion, right?
Mhm.
It's human plus AI. You're going to leverage it. I mean, I don't know what I did before sending ChatGPT or Grok for emails and stuff like that. Can you make me sound nicer? Can you
Yeah. Yeah,
make me sound
ChatGPT is great.
yeah,
Yeah.
for that kind of stuff. But it's the simple repetitive tasks right now is how I've heard and seen a lot of companies using it. I've heard and seen a lot of grandiose ideas, but when we really start to peel back and really ask and lean in and ask, hey, so where do you stand with that? I go, we're still exploring how it can really fit in. So they're using it at a very base level with the idea of it continuing to grow and scale and take on more and more roles. But right now, everything I've seen is that it's very much the simple repetitive task: store building, pricing, profiling, trends analysis, right? So you can take a bunch of data, dump it in, get the analysis and say, okay, cool. These are some great predictors that I can sit there and leverage when it comes to design or choices for seasons, predictability for replenishment. Hey, this is the timing that I need to replenish my inventory. That to me is where uh, we're using it and also leveraging it. And in customer service, obviously the lowest hanging fruit. Companies like what Engage is doing out there, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, just from
Yeah.
a chatbot and customer experience. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think AI lends a hand to what we see in Shopify, right? And I think that's why everybody loves working with Shopify because it has the AI tool. I believe it's an AI tool that will suggest like best website theme based on what they're trying to sell. It'll write product descriptions,
Yeah.
right? So now I don't have to go over to Chat GPT, right, and have that it'll do that all for me. I think it even does like a prediction of like which products will sell best,
Yep.
right? So there are a lot of great ways that AI can help with tasks like design. And when I say design, I mean like website design, not necessarily like a graphic tee design,
Yeah.
right? I think that needs to get a little bit better because while it can create amazing art based off of keywords, it's not necessarily art we're trying to put on a t-shirt or a
Yeah.
bag or a hat, whatever it might be. Maybe we're laser engraving, who knows what it is, but I think that there's still space for, having designers on hand and making sure that your client's artwork is still coming out pristine.
I was going to ask you if you've had any luck with really taking the prompts and getting what you wanted from an AI. I have yet
Not
to get
really, no.
anything yet. I've gotten 60, 70% there, but there's always things I'm kind of like, it still needs to be redone. So to me, I
Yeah.
look at it's a starting point to take to a designer to really finish out if it's something I really need like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and whenever I say AI is still in the beginning stages of really playing a huge role in this space, that's what I mean, like
Yeah.
t-shirt design, logo building, things like that. But I think that it plays a huge role in certain spaces of web design, right? The creativity and automation to that, so that you're not spending so much time building out this store. It's just doing it for you and keeping that process moving. I still feel like, you know, working with your customers on their logos. Can we build an AI bot to just let our customers know when their logo sucks? How about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Who's going to tell them how bad this amazing artwork isn't as fire as they think, right?
I know. Exactly. They're not the designers that they think they are. Well, I mean, from a fulfiller standpoint, let's talk about that though,
Mhm.
because when I look at it, so we look at things, you're obviously, obviously on the cutting edge when it comes to trends and everything else. I'm an old guy. We're more on the production. We look at it from an operational standpoint. I think that's an overlooked opportunity, right? Because it's not the fat, flashy sizzle that everybody's like, oh, that's what's so cool about it. But operationally, it can predict things that, boy, makes everything more efficient. And I think about it from just equipment maintenance. It can take all these inputs in real time that's flowing through it and find out when things actually need to be serviced and or when there's going to be a problem with that piece of equipment where it could go out of service, which makes it so much easier to keep those machines moving. I also
Yeah,
look at
it's
print
more
quality
accuracy
analysis.
as well.
Do you
Yeah.
get a shitty art file, right? It can catch
Hmm.
all that. Another thing too, let's go back to design. Sorry, I'm going to flip flop here because that is just
No
that's
worries.
AI. The one area I really do think, and I'm really excited about, is in trademark and IP infringement. This is actually something we're talking about in a big way. It's something that I've heard from multiple different folks across from the technology, the platform standpoint, and from the fulfiller standpoint, because that's where the liability falls.
Okay.
When somebody says, "Oh, they take a design that's trademarked, has IP,
Hmm.
and they try to push it through," they're going to come after folks like us in the
Yep.
platforms because we're the ones that produce it. The
Right.
consumer, the one that did it, they probably have the most likely they don't have the biggest checkbook. So it's the ones with the biggest checkbook who's the biggest liability, and that's what scares all of us right now. So how do we put these layers in there to help protect all of us from, um, to protect not, and it's also to protect the creator of that and the owner of that IP because we don't want to take infringe on that. And but it's really hard when orders are just flowing through in a print on demand environment. They're uploading it. It's real time art. It hits the equipment and it prints. But if there's these layers in between, it can catch that, flag it, pull it
Right.
out. We can do a deeper audit. That to me is a really impactful opportunity from an operational standpoint that is
I would
ultimately going to
agree.
be best for the entire industry.
Yeah, and so right now we see that through things like quality control, right? We
Mhm.
have to make
Yeah.
sure that we're not printing things that are licensed or like, like the Disney stuff, for example,
Exactly.
right? We have to make sure of all of that to ensure that we're not teetering on those very thin lines, fine
You're
lines.
not bedazzling the princess when you're not allowed to. You can't do that, and that's what we want to protect against. And it's good. It's good for the consumer. It's good for everyone along the supply chain. So it's just, but that to me is that was one that we talked about at our table because I think it
Mhm.
affect a lot of us. So
Yeah. So I would say overall, I think it can be implemented well the way you said, the same way where you think that screen printing and POD should coexist, right? It should be a hybrid approach. I do think, though, we need to be a little careful with AI because we don't want to rely on it too much for design. Um, Even for web design, right? Doesn't even have to be design for art. You don't want to lose your authenticity as a brand, right? You need to be, I mean, your brand awareness and effectiveness is everything when it comes to the product that you're selling and the customers you're targeting. So it could lead to being a little bit more generic and less original. So I would say just being a little careful what you're using it for, so that you're still staying true to your mission or vision of your brand, so that it's complementing it and not taking away from that true like brand identity, right?
You nailed it. I think the authenticity, I can say premiumization, but I can't say authenticity very well. But
Premiumization.
yeah, it's really one of those things that AI, it's so easy to tell when just take from like on LinkedIn, when you see somebody's post, within a second of looking at it, whether it was written by the person or uh, just basically copied and paste.
Something automated. Yep.
It's got a rocket on it. It's got all these emojis. It's got a bunch of different things. It's got bold. It can, but it sure doesn't mean you can't use it and leverage it. But you've got to build the right prompts, but then take that and use that. Okay, I can incorporate that from a messaging standpoint, but then make it your own and really say,
your own. Yeah,
that's
don't
awesome.
lose your voice.
Exactly. And that to me is, I think, really important, and something that I'm trying to do more of even myself is like, okay, I suck at writing. I hate writing these things, but I'm just going to say what I feel because I think it's more important, because it's too obvious. I skip over so many posts or comments if I know it was AI generated. I'm like, that's nice.
Yeah, it's easy to tell now, especially if you're in the space of actively like posting and being at the forefront of that, right? But yeah, I think all in all, our key takeaways from today and some of the burning questions that came from the POD conference is that the print on demand world is evolving fast, right? And the key is to continue finding the right balance for your business in this space to thrive, right? So whether that is between consolidation, right, traditional methods versus new tech, human creativity versus AI, right? Just finding a balance. I think that's the overall arching message, right? Nothing is trying to replace anything. It's just trying to complement what already exists so that we can make money. Right?
Yeah,
so that we can thrive in this space, make money, do what we set out to do as we built these businesses, right?
Look, it's a fun industry. It's a growing industry. It's the future, in my opinion, when it comes to how companies are managing. And even when I say companies, it's brands, retail. It doesn't matter. It's how they're going to be managing their printed materials. And we have a unique position to be able to help influence that and make it easier, make it fun, and man, embrace it, because once an industry matures, it's not as much fun. But if we can at least build that into the culture and the core now, hopefully it will maintain that. And that to me is where I feel like it's all of our obligation right now to make sure and ensure that's that. And we need more alpacas at every meeting. From now on, there should be alpacas everywhere.
I'm putting my vote in for more alpacas. I think that was just like the gold star to the overall epic event that we had, right?
So many pictures of alpacas, people with alpacas were flooded LinkedIn.
Flooding LinkedIn.
Yeah, it was funny. It was awesome.
Right. So for those of you that didn't get to check out the outcome of the POD conference, we did just post a wrap-up video of that conference so that you can have a peek into what the experience was like. Before we head out, a huge thank you to Rusty for joining us today. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe for more insights and stay ahead of trends that are shaping the custom apparel and print on demand industries. Rusty, after this, how can people stay connected with you?
LinkedIn obviously is the easiest way. I'm pretty active on there. So you could probably just Google or just type in POD and I'll probably pop up. But yeah, Rusty Pepper on LinkedIn. So yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. Until next time.
Cheers.